Good day, friends. This is Bobby here once again with episode 3 of the Girmit days. So, hope you have seen Girmit day episode 1 and 2, and I'm assuming that you are enjoying this journey. So, on day 1, I mentioned like whether these people who came over to Fiji, the Indians who were indentured to Fiji, did they go home? Number 2, on the second day, I asked you if what's the meaning of Girmit. So Girmit came from the expression agreement, which is a corrupt way of saying agreement, because agreement the people couldn't pronounce, and eventually it became agreement, and through that agreement. So what is this agreement are we talking about? So did the people who signed those agreement knew exactly what this agreement was all about? Now we got to go back into history, like how it started and what is this agreement that we are talking about, the indentured law. Okay, that started a way ago under the British rule in 1830s, early 1830s, and it was an offshoot of the slavery thing that was practiced in rampant earlier ago. So it was a kind of a diluted one. They used indentured agreement to bring in Indians as the laborers in the plantation industry. And the agreement states, there are two things that the agreement states which I want to highlight, is that any person who has agreed on this one must go to in front of a magistrate and sign up that yes, I know the law and I am agreeing to this. All right, so this has happened, right? So the law states that a person who has signed this goes to a place and works as an indentured labor for 5 years, and after 5 years, and if he or she wants to go back, you have to pay for your own wages for the boat back, or you can extend your stay for another 5 years which was a voluntary free labor. Okay, and at the end of this 10 years, they can either go back free of cost or stay back in the country. So this was the crux of it, and in that it showed that the laborers should not be working too hard. It is only as much as the physical thing that can comply for a male, and for 6 days, 6 hours a day, and for 5 days, and half a day on Saturday, and Sundays a day off, and things like that. And the women was 3/4 of the things that guys were working on. Now imagine these guys, the laborers, indentured laborers, are brought in, and let's go back to the olden days of Fiji. Before the first indentured Indians were brought over, about 30 odd laborers, indentured laborers, were brought in from New Carolina. Okay, and because there was a shortage of laborers there in Fiji for the sugarcane plantation, and all the owners of the sugarcane plantation, they wanted laborers, and there was a shortage of laborers. So they brought in about 32 or 37 laborers from New Carolina. And when they came over, they started the work and they all quit. Why? Is because the amount of work that was offered to them was way above that was the standards were set. All right, so they went back, and again that was in 1879 in the month of Jan. Right now, after that, another set of 30 odd people came over from New Carolina, and as an indentured under the indentured labor agreement, and started working, and half of them went back because the amount of job was so high, and there was a misagreement between the organizers, the managers, and the people who were laborers who were working. So you understand, like, there is a lot of work. The laborers were brought in, given a lot of work, and eventually they all quit. So some of them stayed back. All right, some of them stayed back, but they came from New Carolina. Now they wanted new laborers, and in 1830s, 1832 or something, the indentured labor agreement came into force by the British, and India was a harvest ground. And prior to that, they had made a lot of requests to Indian government to send over laborers, but the British government said, like, no, we will not be able to do that. The only clause was that if we start ruling Fiji, we will look into the matter. So imagine now, British is ruling India, British is ruling Fiji. Where can the cheap laborers come from? And that is where India comes into picture. So they put together a scheme of things. I'm not going to quote any names. I want to narrate this as a story. So the British government is there and they put in agents on the ground. Mostly the agents are working in Calcutta, Tamil Nadu, Mumbai, Gujarat, Punjab, Bihar, all these places from where most of the people came, and even in Balochistan and all those places. So what these agents would do is, because Indian culture is very much close knitted, like a family, and there is spirituality and all the religious aspect and all those things. If you go and tell an Indian to come over and work somewhere else, okay, it is a big no-no. They would say they would like the concept that they will get a better wage, but they would prefer to stay back home and enjoy life with the family, with the practice the culture, because they would feel more secure. So they had to break it. So how can they? So these agents were given a task to target people who are less educated, who are stupid, who doesn't understand, or people who are really willing to go out for work. So at that time, per day it was 1 shilling, right? The salary. So they would give them more goodies, saying that we will pay you more than what you're earning, 3 or 4 times more than what you're earning, and you won't have to work this much as you're working right now. So this was a wrapper that was put around the stick, and they were fed into that. So these agents would go and stand outside the temples, outside the big malls, or the shops and the marketplaces, and they would look at people. They would study those people. They would try to analyze if that person is stupid. So what happens is, like, if assuming that a stupid person or an uneducated person who doesn't know the world would come over, and they would present themselves, and they would say, like, there is a place called Fiji where you would have to go out there and you can work out there at 4 times what you're earning, okay, but you'll have to stay there and make, and so much of money, so much of work is not there. Now, another caveat out there, please remember that they used to tell them that the Fiji was a small city very close to Calcutta. For those people who are educated, they would narrate the entire episode saying that, okay, Fiji is an island somewhere and you will have to take the boat and you have to make an agreement. Okay, so all these things. So people who did not want to go, they were forced to go. Okay, they didn't know where they were going. Okay, now that is what all these things are. It is all a big mess, the way how it was orchestrated. What was the requirement? Let's go to why this all started. Because there was sugar cane plantation in Fiji and they wanted cheap laborers, and indentured Indians were the best one. And Fiji was one country where 60,500 people landed, but there are other areas that Indians had gone to, like Malay, Trinidad, Mauritius, Sri Lanka. There's a list of countries that Indians had emigrated to. Now, do you reckon after those 5 years, the Indians went back home? We don't know, right? Because 5 years was a time period where the agreement was signed up. Another 5 years, an extended period when they had to stay back and work if they had to go back, or they had to stay back in Fiji, or in this case we are talking about the Girmit agreement, Girmitias in Fiji, the Fiji Indians. So let's keep the topic focused on the Fiji Indians, and let's say that tomorrow I am going to talk furthermore on what exactly happened, how did they feel. I'll share stories with you. I want to think about, while you are here, I want you to think about that mother who carried a child in the womb, 79 days on the ship. She was there. She comes over, 72 days she was on the ship for the travel to Fiji through via Sydney, and then another 78 days in the quarantine facility. Imagine about that mother, whose maa ki hal. Okay, that mother was a wife to someone, and he didn't know what had happened. He comes over in the evening, he sees that his wife, his pregnant wife, is not back. The state of mind of that person, or the state of mind of that mother who did the entire travel, who came and settled down in a colony where there were 5 men and a woman. That was the proportion of that. So on that note, my dear friends, I know you guys are busy, but thank you so much for spending your time with me on this journey of the Girmit Days, number 3 episode. Tomorrow I'll bring in episode number 4. So till then, what do we always say? Be cool. Thank you.